Millionaire grandma broke down in tears after seeing a waitress's necklace. It was a quiet Wednesday morning in the heart of Willowbrook, a picturesque town nestled in the state of Vermont. The leaves were beginning to change color, painting the trees with vibrant reds, oranges, and yellows. The Maple Grove Café, a beloved local diner, buzzed with its usual morning crowd. Truckers sipping black coffee, retirees exchanging stories over pancakes, and families soaking in the last days of fall before winter took hold. Behind the counter, Emily Hayes, a 23-year-old waitress with auburn curls tucked into a messy bun, wore a tired smile as she poured fresh coffee into a mug. She moved with grace and speed, juggling orders, dishes, and conversations, all while keeping her energy up for another long shift. Around her neck, she wore a small silver locket, old and slightly tarnished, but clearly cherished. That necklace was the only piece of her mother she had left. Her mother had passed away when Emily was just 6. A car accident, a memory buried under years of foster homes, abuse, and neglect. But the necklace, engraved with the name Catherine and a tiny heart, was one of the few possessions she'd kept with her through everything. "Table 6 needs a refill," barked her manager, Mike, snapping her out of her thoughts. "On it," she replied, grabbing the coffee pot and heading toward the corner booth. There, sitting quietly with a delicate china cup in hand, was a woman Emily hadn't seen before. She was dressed impeccably in a tailored gray coat with a pearl brooch and leather gloves resting beside her. Her white curls were pinned neatly, and she exuded an aura of elegance, almost out of place in the humble diner. "Good morning, ma'am. Can I top you off?" The woman smiled kindly. "Yes, dear. Thank you." Emily poured the coffee, and as she leaned slightly forward, the woman's eyes caught something. Her smile faltered. Her hand trembled slightly as she reached for her cup, but paused midair. Her gaze had locked on the necklace. "That's a beautiful locket," the woman said, her voice suddenly softer, almost distant. Emily's hand went to her chest instinctively. "Oh, thank you. It belonged to my mom." The woman stared harder. "Do you mind? May I see it? Just for a moment." Emily hesitated. It was a strange request, but there was something in the woman's expression. Pain, hope, disbelief. Sure," she said gently, unclasping the necklace and handing it over. The woman held it delicately, her hands trembling now. When she opened the locket, her breath caught in her throat. Inside was a faded photo. A young woman with warm eyes and the same auburn curls as Emily, smiling beside a baby. "Catherine," the woman whispered, her eyes welled with tears. This is my daughter." Emily froze. "What?" The cafe seemed to disappear around her. She could hear the blood rushing in her ears. "My daughter, Catherine Ann Monroe. She wore this necklace every day. I gave it to her for her 18th birthday." Emily's lips trembled. "That's my mom's name. But she died when I was 6, in a car crash. I don't remember much. I I grew up in foster care." The woman, Eleanor Monroe, the wealthiest woman in all of Willowbrook, stood up, her hands shaking as she placed the necklace gently on the table. "No one ever told me she had a child," Eleanor whispered. "They said after the accident, she passed away alone. I tried to find out more, but no one mentioned a daughter." Tears ran down her cheeks now, silent and constant. Emily couldn't process what she was hearing. "Wait, are you saying you're my grandmother?" Eleanor nodded slowly, eyes locked on her face. "I never stopped missing her, and now I've found you." The news spread like wildfire through Willowbrook. Within hours, the Maple Grove Cafe buzzed with whispers. "The old lady at table 6? That's Eleanor Monroe, worth over 30 million. She found her long-lost granddaughter." "No way, that waitress? She's gonna be rich." But for Emily, none of that mattered. What shook her to the core wasn't Eleanor's wealth. It was that for the first time in her life, she had family. That night, Eleanor invited her to the Monroe estate, an enormous historic mansion at the edge of Willowbrook, with ivy crawling up the stone walls and a view of Lake Marigold. Emily was overwhelmed but curious. Inside, the mansion was filled with portraits, books, and relics from generations past. Eleanor showed her photos of Catherine, teenage years, prom night, college graduation. She left home after an argument, Eleanor explained, voice heavy with regret. We never reconciled. She wanted to marry someone I didn't approve of. I was too proud, too stubborn. I thought she'd come back. Emily swallowed hard. She never talked about her family. She must have thought I wouldn't accept you. They sat in silence, 2 generations bridged by grief. Then Eleanor looked at her seriously. You're not just my granddaughter, Emily. You're family, and I want you to come live here. Millionaire, you deserve everything your mother would have had. Emily's jaw dropped. I, I don't know what to say. Say yes. Emily moved in the next week. Eleanor spared no effort in making her feel welcome. She gave her Catherine's old room, restored just the way it had been, and introduced her to private tutors, etiquette classes, and art instructors. She encouraged her to pursue her dream of becoming a fashion designer, a dream Emily had never dared to voice aloud. But not everything was perfect. In the background, shadows loomed. Eleanor's lawyer, Victor Langston, a stern man in his late 50s, began acting strangely. He questioned Emily's background, asked for DNA tests, and scowled at her during meetings. She just showed up with a necklace, he muttered to Eleanor one evening. How do we know this isn't a con? I know, Eleanor said firmly. I saw my daughter in her eyes. Still, Victor insisted on investigating. Meanwhile, Emily tried her best to adjust, but whispers followed her. At charity events and social luncheons, wealthy socialites smiled politely but snubbed her behind her back. She was a waitress. She probably planned this. She's after Eleanor's fortune. Emily heard it all, but she endured, because for the first time in her life, she wasn't alone. Then came the gala. Eleanor hosted an annual charity ball for children's hospitals, a lavish event attended by politicians, CEOs, and celebrities. This year, Eleanor introduced Emily publicly as her granddaughter. Dressed in an elegant emerald gown, with her mother's necklace shining proudly, Emily stood beside Eleanor on the grand staircase. This is my granddaughter, Emily Hayes, Eleanor announced. She is the future of the Monroe legacy. Applause filled the hall, but not everyone clapped. Victor watched from the side, his expression unreadable. 2 days later, disaster struck. Emily was accused of stealing over $500,000 from the Monroe Charitable Foundation. Documents, signed withdrawals, and digital trails all pointed to her. Anonymous reports surfaced that she had been searching online about inheritance laws. The news made headlines. Gold digger granddaughter scams Monroe heiress? Eleanor was devastated. The trust she had built with Emily now wavered. Tell me the truth, she asked in a trembling voice. Did you do this? No, Emily cried. I would never. I don't even know how to do something like that. Victor stepped in. The evidence is damning, Eleanor. We must protect your assets. A private investigator was hired. Emily was devastated. She packed her bags, leaving the necklace behind on Eleanor's desk. Weeks passed. Eleanor missed her granddaughter terribly. Something didn't add up. Then one night, her housekeeper brought her a flash drive. Miss Emily left this by mistake. It's from the café security camera, the day you met her. Eleanor watched. She saw Emily working hard, smiling at customers, joking with the cook. Then she saw herself enter, and she saw Emily's genuine surprise, her confusion, her tears. It wasn't rehearsed, it was real. That same night, Eleanor received a report from the private investigator. The culprit wasn't Emily, it was Victor. He had been siphoning funds for years, covering his tracks. When Eleanor announced Emily as her heir, he panicked, afraid his crimes would be discovered. He forged documents to frame her. Eleanor was livid. Victor was arrested. Emily was cleared. Eleanor raced to find her. She located her in a small apartment above the Maple Grove Cafe. Emily had returned to work, trying to rebuild her life from scratch. When Eleanor walked in, Emily froze. I understand if you hate me, Eleanor said softly, but I never stopped believing in you. I found the truth. She handed her the necklace. Emily burst into tears. I thought I lost you again. They embraced tightly, surrounded by the aroma of coffee and pancakes, in the same place where their story had begun. Months later, Emily returned to the Monroe estate, not as a guest, but as the rightful heiress. She used her inheritance not for luxury, but to open a design school for foster kids with artistic talent. She called it the Catherine Center, in honor of the mother she barely remembered but would never forget. Eleanor stood proudly beside her at the ribbon-cutting ceremony, her eyes filled with tears of joy. That night, as they sat by the fireplace, Eleanor took Emily's hand. "You've given me something no money ever could," Emily smiled. "A family?" "No," Eleanor whispered. "A second chance." And as snow began to fall gently outside, blanketing Willowbrook in white, the two women, bound by love, loss, and an old silver necklace, watched the flames dance, knowing that from pain had blossomed something truly beautiful. Grandma broke down in tears after seeing a waitress's necklace,